Stardate 5373.4. We are in orbit around the planet of the time vortex, the focus of all the timelines of our galaxy. Our mission is to assist a team of historians in the investigation of Federation history. The episode, Yesteryear. This is the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast. You are with me, your usual host, Mike Wilson. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, DK.
Hello there.
DK is having all kinds of technical issues, so apologies if you hear some slight interference in the background there, but we're doing our best to keep him with us, and we are thrilled. Yeah, exactly. We are thrilled to be joined by a first-time guest again this week. And it's a guest that I invited on because I actually encountered her for the first time on Star Trek TikTok, or Trek Talk as it's known. Mary, welcome to the podcast.
Hi.
How's it going? Yes, I thoroughly recommend finding Mary on TikTok for funny videos, sometimes profound, sometimes just good chats, and an awful lot of Star Trek cosplay and uniforms. So, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love cosplay. And it's funny because I've only been doing this for just a little bit over a year, as far as like in the Trek Talk area. I got on TikTok in pre-pandemic. Wow. And I got on there because a coworker said, "Oh, this TikTok thing is so funny." So I was like, "Oh yeah, that looks like fun. I could probably," and my kids started talking about it. And I said, well, then I needed to automatically get on there so I could embarrass them.
Love it.
So the very first video I made was just, "Hi, this is my first TikTok." And I showed my kids and I'm like, "And I'm here to embarrass them." And my daughter's like, "Ah." So
nice. And, I like it.
The funny thing is that from there, like when I got into Trek Talk, that was when I started like really growing like a bit of a following. And now my kids actually tell their friends, and their friends run across me. And so now it's kind of a flex. Like my kids actually flex their mom's popularity.
Oh, you're the cool mom.
I am. I am. I would like to think that I'm the cool mom. I mean,
nice.
Not too cool that I'm like really permissive, but cool enough that I know how to have fun with the kids, I guess.
Yeah. So you're just waiting for the day that the kids ask you to buy them their first Starfleet uniform, I guess.
Oh, well, see, right now, my daughter's about the same size as me, so she could wear what I wear. My oldest son just recently like got taller than me, but he's skinny, and some of my uniforms are a little long, so he can wear them. And I did make him, actually, when one of them showed up, one of my Voyager uniforms showed up at home, but I was at work. I said, "Try it on. I want to see what it looks like."
Nice.
So he did, and he was there, standing there wearing a science uniform, and I was like, "This is lovely." And he's gotten, I mean, because of Trek Talk and everything, I have gotten my kids a little bit more into Star Trek, where they were not into it at all. And now, like, my oldest son genuinely likes it, loves Lower Decks. Decks.
Oh, cool.
See, this is parenting done right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that though I am divorced, what brought, or one of the main things that my ex and I connected on was Star Trek. He brought me in. I had already like been into Star Trek like years before, just hit and miss. But he was the one who brought me into the fandom. But the problem is that I went into the fandom and he did not.
He was like, I've created a monster. What have I done?
Yeah, I was like, can we get uniforms? Can we dress up as like a family of Starfleet officers and stuff like that? And he was just not quite that into it.
You sat there thinking, I've made a huge mistake.
Well, that among other things.
We won't go there, but yeah, I also wanted to say that as much as I love all of the kind of Star Trek uniforms and stuff, I also appreciate the fact that I know you've started watching the Orville and you've got an Orville uniform, so you can join my crew of people that I'm desperately trying to force DK, my co-host, into watching the show because he still hasn't yet.
I love the Orville. Oh my gosh. You haven't watched it yet. You need to get on it. It is so good. It is so good. I hadn't watched it until this summer. And it was like the third season had already started. And I hadn't watched anything really. And it was recommended to me. So I popped on and I watched the first episode and I was like, and I wasn't a fan of it instantly. But because I kind of felt like when I was sitting there watching it, I was like, this feels like Family Guy in space. Yeah. And I liked Family Guy's Star Wars episodes, and I liked his lampooning of Star Trek when like he would have like, those little cutaway scenes of Star Trek. That's funny. Like that stuff's hilarious. But this just felt like you're trying too hard, and I'm not a real big fan. Well, I think Mike, that he's known on TikTok and Twitter. Random Gotham,
Yes,
you know him.
Yes, yeah. I've seen him on TikTok a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who told me to watch, and I told him that I wasn't a big fan. I was like, he's like, you have to keep watching, and so I watched the second episode. I watched the second episode, and I was like, not so much. He's like, please keep watching.
Keep going.
So after a few weeks or so, I watched the third episode. It was the third episode that turned that turned the corner for me, and then I was like, okay, I get it now. I get it.
Yeah. I'm still on the Family Guy in space kind of vibe at the moment.
Yeah. Please do not think that is what it is at all, because it becomes so much more, so rich and just so good. I can't tell you how many episodes during the third season alone I was crying at, because it's so impactful.
That's the one. Yeah, we had an interview with Fred Bronson, who's like an old friend of Gene Roddenberry, a few weeks ago, and I got him talking because he's like tweeted out how much he loves the Orville and stuff, and he said the same thing that I've been saying, which is series 1 and 2 at times try a bit too hard for the comedy and stuff, but you've got to get to season 3 because season 3 is just so good. It's outstanding, and I was the same. I was emotional every other week.
I know. I was just I had to take breaks. I had to stop and watch an episode a week after they were all already out. I was down to watching one episode a week because I couldn't handle it. I was like, okay, this is enough. I have all of these emotions.
Yeah, I also I love that season 3 basically just completely turned the tables, because for the first couple of seasons you had all those people that were like, new Trek is too woke, I'm going to watch the Orville because it's what Trek should be. And I just feel like Seth MacFarlane heard it and was like, oh, you think so? And then season 3 was like, you think you've seen woke? Oh, I'll get you.
Yeah. People calling new Trek too woke is
it's a pet peeve.
We don't get along.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we completely agree with you. Yeah, believe me, we're on the same page with that. So
definitely.
Awesome. Well, yeah, as I say, do if you get a chance, look up Mary on TikTok, because it's always good fun. But I was looking forward to chatting, as you can probably tell from the last 10 minutes or so, because we do have a lot of kind of things in common with Trek and stuff, and I wanted to know a bit more about your journey. So That is basically how we always start with new guests, with just a little sort of getting to know you, and a section that I call Hailing Frequencies Open.
Hailing frequencies open, sir.
You've half answered the first question already without being prompted, because the first thing I always like to ask is, what was it that first got you into Star Trek? Which you kind of explained it was your ex-husband that kind of started you watching. But can you recall your sort of first experience? What was it that grabbed you, and maybe what was your first episode, if you can recall?
Well, I don't remember as a kid the first episodes that I watched, but it was the original series. I would get home from school and my mom would always have the TV on, and afternoons, whatever station it was, I don't know, they would have on Star Trek and the Monkees, like right back to back. And I loved both of them. And I was super into space because this was like, the mid 80s. And, shuttles and everything like that. And I was obviously like greatly impacted, like a lot of people, by the Challenger accident. And I wanted to go to space. I wanted to be an astronaut. Like, these were important things to me. So anything that had to do with space and the future and like robots and stuff, like, loved it. I was ridiculous for it. And I guess maybe I got into the Monkees because of Star Trek, because they kind of if you look at how they're shot and how like their scenery is and everything like that, besides like outside stuff, they're very similar, and even their jokes are similar. It's wild. There are things where I feel like they are in the same universe, and don't come at me on that.
No, I mean, isn't that literally why they put Walter Koenig as Chekhov? He was supposed to be Davy Jones. That's why they patterned him to look that way. So yeah, definitely.
There are jokes in each show that are the same joke. Like, it's the same joke, and it's so weird. And I remember watching the original series with my ex, because he would get DVDs for Christmas from his family of all the Trek series, and so we would watch them. And I remember one time where they were talking about a card game, and I was like, oh my gosh, they talked about this on the Monkees. This is a Monkees joke. And he was like, what? And I'm like, shut up, this is it. So anyways, that being said, then I would see hit and miss The Next Generation, and I was a Wesley Crusher fan girl.
Oh, wow, okay.
To see a boy, like, even though I'm not sure exactly how much older he is than me, but he was obviously older than me because he was a teenager and I was a child. But I still had a big crush on him, and I was like, this is exactly what I want out of my life. I want to be a genius on a starship. This is where I am, and I want to meet cute boys like this. This is what the future looks like. All the spandex, all of the everything. Throw in Deanna Troi looking fine with the curly hair that my straight-haired self will never ever achieve, and her beauty and grace and just everything about all the stuff that she wore. She to me was the future fashion perfected. And so it's funny that this is the stuff that caught me.
No, I think it makes sense.
And so I would draw pictures and write things about the future, and everything was, in spandex. So
why not? That Next Generation aesthetic is the one that I think a lot of people of our vague generation grew up with, and so yeah. I mean, I love the original series aesthetic as well, obviously, but I think the Next Generation one is the most like home for me. So yeah,
it's true. Awesome. It's true. It really did. It drew me in, and I would always wonder, and I would turn on the TV on Sunday afternoons trying to catch Wesley again on the screen, but I did not realize that he wasn't in as many episodes as I thought he was, but that's okay. And I would still sit down and watch.
I was just going to say, I bet you were devastated when Final Mission aired and it was like, that's it, he's gone from the show.
Well, I didn't know, because until within the past 10 years, I had not watched all the episodes of Next Generation. Okay. Yeah. So when I say my ex got me into it, it was with my ex that I watched every single episode of every single Star Trek show to that point, and all of the movies, and that includes the J.J. Abrams ones in the theaters too.
Oh wow! Okay, cool.
we did all of it. Like, we watched all of it, and it was what we would do after putting the kids to bed. We'd go watch Star Trek, and I have somewhere in Facebook land memories noting when we watched the last episode of Deep Space Nine, which was the last episode that was current, or of Trek current. So because it was before Discovery had started. So yeah.
Right, yeah. So that's fair enough. So you can't really remember a specific episode, but you kind of dipped in and out, and then kind of watched every episode, I guess, when you were dragged to it. So.
I mean, when the first episode that my ex showed me that really got me hooked was Caretaker of Voyager. If you want an episode, and that's cool. That was what got me into it. And we watched Voyager first, and as soon as that episode was over, I said, "Well, what happens?" And he goes, "Well," I'm like, "Do they get home?" He goes, like,
"How long do you got? Have you got 7 years?"
And I said, well, because I was moving away. I live in Ohio in the United States, and I was moving away to Mississippi, and he's here in Ohio, and so this was basically like our last day together. And I was like, well, let me watch the last episode. Let's just watch the last episode, and then I can see what happens. And he looks at me and he says, "You won't understand it." And I said, "Why not?" He said, "So much happens between then and And I thought to myself, well, this is ridiculous. I bet I would understand at least some of it. And so anyways, so he would come down. He came down and visited me a couple times, and this was when they were sending out VHS tapes.
Oh yes, I'm from that era as well. Yeah, having to put up with 2 episodes a month. Yep.
Yep. So he was on that plan, and so he would bring a few of his VHS tapes down to visit me in Mississippi, and we would watch. And I think by the time we got done watching Voyager, he actually had moved, because he moved down to Mississippi a year later. And so we watched it then. But yes, it was Caretaker, and I needed to know what happened to the Voyager crew. I was intrigued.
See, when I first watched Caretaker, I didn't have that option because it was literally as it went out, more or less live. Because it was the end of because I'm in the UK, obviously, and it aired for us as the end of Star Trek Night, I think, to celebrate the 30th anniversary. So it was a bunch of like panel shows and quiz shows of like UK celebrities talking about Star Trek and stuff like that. And then the night ended with the premiere screening of Caretaker. So that was the.
I never saw that. I ended up having to buy the VHS.
Oh, really? Okay. That's fair enough. That's my first series that I actually watched the pilot as it went out, because I was the same. I watched like TOS and TNG, but they were many episodes deep by the time I started. So yeah, that was really cool. Awesome. Well, that kind of segues me into my next question, if you don't mind then, which is with your vast knowledge now of all of these things, if you had to pick 3 episodes or movies to show someone that you think would represent the best of Star Trek, maybe to try and lure people to watch, what would the 3 choices be for you?
Okay, the 3 episodes that I would choose. Okay, this is hard for me. Okay, I am fully admitted that I am a Voyager. Like, that's my top series. Voyager is my top series. I think the episode, one of the episodes, or I guess episodes that I would pick would be Year of Hell.
Okay.
I always
count 2 partners as 1 episode, by the way, so that's fine.
Okay, cool. I find that either that one, it's a toss-up, either that one or Counterpoint, because I find that the intrigue in both of these episodes is so good that I want somebody to see how good the writing is in, and I feel like it really shows like the like what a strong captain Janeway is. And I feel like sometimes people don't give Janeway a chance because for whatever reason, I've heard them all. And I feel like that one is a really good one. Okay. Let's see. Another episode. This one's probably going to be kind of wild. And I wouldn't have been able to say it any other day except for today. If you would have asked me last week, this wouldn't have been on my list because as far as I knew, it didn't exist. The most recent episode of Prodigy.
Yes. Thank you. Have you seen it yet, TK, by the way?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm watching it this weekend.
No way.
I don't. Okay, then I don't want to give you any spoilers, but what a love letter to Star Trek.
Yep.
What a love letter. It's beautiful. Yes. And pulls in so many things from the original series in such a respectful, loving way. And without you having to know all of these things in order to appreciate it.
Yes, I should clarify for the audience because this won't go out for a few weeks at time of recording. I should clarify the episode that Mary's referring to, the last one to air at time of recording was All the World's a Stage. So that's the one we're referring to. And I also just loved it so much. And it's weird because we've just been singing the praises of Prodigy because the episode that our last episode to go out, which actually goes out tomorrow at time of recording, was us just raving about the Prodigy episode Time Amok. So it's kind of like
I know both of those episodes so good. Like as young as this show is, I mean I don't actually believe this, but the show has no business being this good, but it is.
Oh yeah, and we
definitely we've been saying this over the last couple of weeks. It's been the consistently fantastic writing. And it's automatically marked it out as pretty much the best show going right now.
I really agree. I've been trying to get my kids to watch it. They like Murf because I have a poster that I got at Mission Chicago, and they were giving them out, and it's just a picture of it's the main picture that you see like that does I don't know how exactly. Whatever the thumbnail is that you'll see for Prodigy. And it's got all of them on there. And Murf is really cute. And my kids think that Murf is cute. And so I'm like, yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they're also, my kids are a little bit older. My oldest is just about 16 and my youngest is almost 12. So they're not like kids. But I still feel like that they would really like this. And when I got them to watch a little bit, they said to me, they're like, this actually feels more like some of the anime stuff that we watch.
It is. Yeah. I think it's designed to kind of sneak through kids as this is a Nickelodeon show. And,
right.
That's cool.
They do like some of the stuff. And like I said, my oldest really enjoys Lower Decks, and that's
hilarious.
I know, and that's the other thing. Okay, because another episode that I was going to pick was the season finale of Lower Decks for season 3. For season 3, because I found that Boimler's path through all of the stuff that he created, but then he went he went away from the main story to deal with what he, I'm like, how much spoilers are we allowed to give on here? I guess I should ask that.
Oh, I mean, we've definitely seen it's the season 3 finale was The Stars at Night, so it was the one where they basically have to face off all the California classes versus the Texas class.
Yes.
But it's been out a few weeks at this point.
Yeah.
So
our general rule is if we've seen it, go for it.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, when he's dealing with what he thought was the death of his clone or his transporter twin, So, and I kind of, when he was sitting there, like sitting with that for a little bit, I felt that. Like, I was like, oh, it's not too often that they have characters really sitting and, like dealing with a death of someone that was or was not close to them. But I mean, for him, it was him, I think, seeing his own mortality and dealing with that. And anyways, I just found it to be highly entertaining, while at the same time really diving deep into your own psyche, like of like thinking about your own mortality and how you deal with that. And granted, we aren't all going to go off the rails like that, but just think of like the things that we do sometimes. So anyways, those are my out there choices for episodes that I would show people.
That's great. I love the new representation there in that as well. So that's fantastic. And I agree with you. I think the writing, particularly of the animated ones, because Mike McMahon, who does Lower Decks, is so good at just putting a regular Star Trek episode in the middle of a comedy and somehow it working, which I would never have expected. And I don't know if you saw this, but after the most recent Prodigy episode, because I always praise it all the time, and so I don't know if it's because of that, but head writer Aaron Waltke, who's like executive writer, he followed me, and he sometimes likes my tweets and stuff. And so after I'd immediately finished watching the episode, I kind of linked, sort of shared to his username and just put, I have nothing really eloquent to say, just thank you. I've never been this emotional for a long time, and I felt so seen as a fan, and it's nice to know that one of us is kind of in charge of things. And he just put back the little live long and prosper sign and a heart, and I was like, yep, that'll do.
It's I have found for myself that the people who specifically do like Lower Decks and Prodigy have been really out there, like being with the fans, on Twitter and stuff like that. They do see us and they are listening. And I, in my interaction or, brief, with a couple of the voice actors from Lower Decks at the convention in Chicago back in April, they are wonderful and they are truly appreciative of the fans. And I think that that's like one of the best things, because it was the first convention I have ever been to. In my 43 years, I had never ever been to a convention.
Unbelievable. You have the best photo from that convention, and it was the first one you went to. That's insane.
It was. And the thing is that the idea for the photo was made that morning. Not what we were going to do, but just to do it. It was just made that morning. And then we walk in there, and as a photo shoot goes, like the photo opportunities, they're very rushed. You're very in there, out there kind of sort of thing. Because there's a lot of people, and I totally get that. But I walked in, and Tawny looked at me, and she goes, "Oh my God, Jennifer." And I was like...
You were in costume, we should clarify. You're not just naturally blue with antenna.
Yeah, right. I was dressed up as Jennifer Schran, as an Andorian.
Yeah.
And Tawny looks at me and she goes, should I shove you? And I looked at her and I said, would you please? This is our interaction.
I probably would have said the same. Yeah.
So we did. I was like, okay. I said, when they're going to shoot the picture, just shove me, so then like we can get like an authentic reaction, because I am all for it. I do, like a little bit of community theater, so I know how to do like a little bit of acting, and I know what to do to get like a real look. So I was like, just shove me, and then I'll be like, oh my gosh, she shoved me. And so she did, but the picture messed up, and they're like, hey, can we do that again? The people shooting the picture, the photographer said that. So she was like, all right. She's like, I felt like we were a little late on that. She's like, so she's like, I'm going to pretend like I'm shoving you. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to throw my head back and that's what we're going to do. And so my friend who was dressed up as Mariner, she was over there with her. And I didn't realize that when I was throwing my head back and everything that I was running into Noelle, aka Tendi. And then Jack is over there with my friend Rick, who's dressed up as Boimler, and they're both holding the Tom Paris plate. They had no idea what was going on in the rest of the picture, like with all of the girls. They had no idea. They were just over there happy with their Tom Paris plate, and it was beautiful. It was the best thing that I've ever done.
I love it. When I had sort of confirmed that you were happy to come on the podcast and stuff, because DK obviously hadn't really seen anything or didn't know you, I don't think. And I was like, okay, this the first thing I'm going to show you about Mary is this cosplay photo from a convention, because this is what you need to see. And I was like, she's the one cosplaying Jennifer in this photo. And I think I showed him that, and DK was like, that is genius. I love this woman already.
It was probably, I'm not joking. Like, I wanted to do Jennifer because I thought it would be fun and it would be a cosplay that other people wouldn't do. And it turned out, like, at the convention, a lot of people knew who I was, and people were yelling at me all the time. They're like, it's Jennifer, all the time. And it was the only time. It was the only time I ever was like really okay with like people saying ew at me a lot. It was fine. But then I had plenty of Andorians from other eras, places, things, who would come up to me and they're like, you're one of us. Let's take a picture. And so I was like, let's take a picture. And it was fantastic when this one guy who liked to mix his fandoms, he was a Starfleet officer who had attached a lightsaber to make it look like it was going through his body. And he came up to me, he said, will you take a picture with me? And I said, yes, I will, as long as I can stab you. And he said, absolutely.
That is great. That is fantastic. Awesome. I'd love to be at one of these conventions, especially if you and your friends are there by the sounds of it. So that's awesome.
I plan to pull this one. I plan to pull this cosplay out again for another convention, because it's not a one-time thing. I think it's too much fun to do.
Awesome. Well, if you're okay with it, I'll probably share that picture just over the top of us talking when this goes out, because I think people need to
totally
see
fine.
it, so.
That would be wonderful. When Tawny showed it, we were so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, well, that's cool. So yeah, the next question on my list then is probably a quicker, but potentially just equally tough one. And it's just simply what's your favorite series of all of the Trek?
Well, my favorite series, I think I've answered this before in like TikTok lives, and I kind of break it up. I have like the DS or Enterprise and earlier, and then New Trek. And when I go like for like I guess I want to call them like legacy series. Voyager, I said before, Voyager is my series. It is the comfort one. It is the one I go back to time and time again to watch. I just love everything about the Voyager crew. And that is really my series. As far as New Trek, Lower Decks, it's by far and away. Although I am going to say, because of getting back more episodes of Prodigy, it's certainly making a run for it for me. I have truly enjoyed Strange New Worlds and Discovery, but for me, it's a little slower. And I guess I have always been a big fan of animation. So I spent a lot of my years, on the Pixar movies and everything like that. Lots of years with Bugs Bunny. So animation is a big deal to me. And so this is really awesome. Nice to mix all of it up together.
That's cool. Well, that kind of feeds into, I should have probably said this earlier, but that feeds into the review we will be doing today, because as I should have mentioned, this is kind of the series where we're looking at time travel related episodes, and the particular one we're going to look at later in this episode is the Star Trek The Animated Series episode Yesteryear. So we will get to that, I promise.
Yes.
But with that in mind, then the final question of this before we move to the hit or miss section, Mary, is just
Okay.
do you have any personal favorite time travel stories from all of the Trekdom?
Oh, yeah, I'm not the best on like episode names. I think
That's
it's
fine. If you
Timeless.
describe it, we'll know. Our chances are my encyclopedic brain will know the title. If
Yeah,
you
Mike might know it.
I'm like, I think it's Voyager's Timeless, where Harry goes back to save Voyager from crashing into the
that was
ice
episode
planet.
100 of Voyager. That's why it was kind
Yes.
of a special one.
Oh, what an episode! And I know it was directed by LeVar Burton, and I know that LeVar
because he's in it.
Because he's in it. And I was like, that's such a good episode. It's such a good episode.
I love that episode.
And it let Harry be something, you know.
Hmm.
And I wanted Harry to, because I think anybody who loves Voyager, if you really love Voyager, then you probably do have an affection for Harry Kim and a sympathy for the man.
Yeah, it didn't get him a bloody promotion, did it? Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, it was just, I felt like at least in that episode, he got to be able to truly be the hero. And I liked that for him.
That's cool. So yeah, Timeless would be any others that you want to sort of give honorable mentions or?
Okay. Oh man, I'm trying to think. The thing is like now that I'm on Voyager, I have Voyager brain, so I'm thinking about Future's End.
There's a lot. See, I like that, and DK doesn't, and we've had so many disagreements this series about that.
Really?
I love like Future's End.
I just can't square the present day scenes. I'm not a big Ed Begley Jr. fan.
Oh, okay. I thought he was really good at playing a bad guy because see, I had seen him before. I was like, oh, I know that guy. That's the guy from St. Elsewhere because my parents watched that show. So to talk about how old I am, I was a kid and bored by it, but I was like, I know that guy with blonde hair and glasses. So but I enjoyed Future's End because I enjoyed Sarah Silverman. I thought she was one of the best guests on Star Trek, like period, like across the board.
I would agree. Excellent. I don't think DK would, but
I liked it. I liked her banter with I liked Rain's banter with Tom Paris and stuff. I thought it was fun. And honestly, seeing Tom be in a place that he really loved and wanted to see because of how much he loved the past, that era and everything. There was a lot to enjoy about it.
I just now all I can think of is her going, let me guess, you minored in B movies. Love it. Awesome. That's cool. That's all right then. So that's gonna cover that. So I'm going to move us on then because I know that we don't want to keep you for too long because you've probably got plans of your own and stuff. But,
no, the thing is I am a chatty Cathy. You guys got
me.
So.
Hey, better that than us just sit in silence.
Yeah.
So that's fine. So that's cool. Well, I'll move us to the next section then. As I say, I briefly discussed it with you just over sort of chat, Mary, before we had you on the show, and it is going to be the section I call Hit or Miss.
What about my performance?
I'm not a drama critic.
And just I think random things from somewhere in the Star Trek universe, but with a couple of time travel related ones to try to fit this season's theme thrown in. And I just basically will ask Mary and DK, do you think it's a hit or a miss? Some reasons why. We can debate back and forth if need be, if there's any disagreement. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, but we always keep it civil because we're nice people. So there we go. So yeah, with that in mind then, the first thing that I have ready for this week is something that's kind of fitting into a theme that I got into over the last sort of couple of episode recordings, and I don't know why, but I'm down this rabbit hole now, so why not? We've covered Lower Decks and we've covered Prodigy, so hit or miss the Star Trek Discovery uniforms, specifically from season 4 onwards. And as our guest, Mary, we'll start with you. What do you think?
I'm a big fan of uniforms, but this one's going to be a miss for me. I don't like them very much.
I am shocked by that. That's okay. Okay. So why are you not overly fond of this particular one then?
I don't know. It's just the aesthetics of it. I don't love the stripe down.
I can understand that part. Yeah.
It's not my thing. Plus, I mean, okay, Sunico is a beautiful woman. I feel like it's not doing her any favors.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
just like, it just doesn't look great on her. I'm like, not so much. Not so much. Yeah. It's like the cut isn't working. You know.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. My least favorite thing about these, without giving away my answer, is that I hate that for some reason they think that it looks good to have everything be asymmetrical, so one side is longer than the other. Not that you can't really see it a lot, but yeah, that sort of bugs my OCD brain when I'm like, oh, it's just it doesn't look good at all. But yeah, I'll get to the rest of it later. But yeah, I can understand that. That's fair enough. So you don't have this one in your wardrobe to cosplay then?
No, and I'm probably not going to be buying it either. Nope, don't think so.
Fair enough. What about you, DK? Hit or miss for these uniforms?
I think it's going to be a soft miss. 9 times out of 10, I don't really notice the uniforms, whereas in things like Lower Decks and Prodigy, to the next gen, the uniforms are there. You can't help but pick up on them, but these kind of just wash over me. Apart from the aforementioned, like you said, the asymmetry of the hemline. Oh, I hate that, and I also don't like Saru's badge collection. It just
I love that.
No, it just looks a little too cluttered to me. It just looks like he's just trying out for Boy Scouts. So,
it's no worse than Worf's Baldric, is it?
I can take Worf's Baldric, but no, it just, to me, it just doesn't work. I think the Discovery crew were better in the original uniforms.
The blue and gold one.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it works for him. So to me, it's I don't hate it. I'm not going raging fanboy on it, but it's a soft.
Okay, well, I'll weirdly enough then, despite what I said earlier, I'll be the lone voice that says they're a hit because I like them. Just perhaps it's because I was really concerned that I never really liked the blue jumpsuity type look from those first 2 seasons because it didn't fit, and I prefer colorful Starfleet uniforms because I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up with TOS and TNG, so I like the fact that these are all that color. It's not like a tiny bit of red, yellow, or blue somewhere in there. And I think I was worried, as I was saying, when season 3 aired, that I was like, oh, when they get the new uniforms, they're going to have those ugly ass motion picture looking gray ones and it's going to look terrible. And sure enough, season 3 finale ended with them in those uniforms. And I was like, no. So when the season 4 trailer aired and they didn't have them on and they had these nice bright ones, I was like, oh, thank God, because I couldn't have. Not that I wouldn't have watched the show or anything, but I was like, I don't know if I could have taken those just drab gray things for any longer than need be. So yeah, I like the material. I like the fact that the captain has those little epaulettes on the shoulder. I don't know why. I just think it looks cool. And yeah,
I'm not gonna disagree with you on the shoulders. Like the shoulders look sharp.
Yeah,
that part works for me, but yeah, it's like the asymmetry and everything like that I just really can't get into. Although I am going to say what you were saying was that you didn't want it to be like you weren't a big fan of the blue and the gold, but I felt like it needed to be there in order to be like the bridge from Enterprise to the original series. Since that was originally where it was in the timeline.
Well, It was and it wasn't, because I mentioned this on a previous episode. It irritated me because it was like 2 years after the Cage. So really they should have been in TOS uniforms. So I was like,
fair enough.
But yeah, that's just me being a nerd, I guess. But there we go.
That's okay.
With regards to shoulders, I want to see the 4 epaulets from the finale of Lower Decks. I want to see someone in live action wearing all those.
Oh, what the Admiral uniform is?
Yeah, the Fleet Admiral ones.
Yeah. Oh, maybe. Well, we'll call that one a miss then, because I'm outvoted 2-1, and we'll probably end up talking about uniforms again, I'm sure, because there's plenty of them. So there we go.
They're constantly coming out with new uniforms. My goodness.
Oh yeah, completely. And the fact, like, I love Prodigy so much; it's my favorite show, but I just don't get why they have a completely new uniform for the Protostar and then a completely different uniform for the Dauntless to what we knew from the Picard flashbacks and everything. And it's just, oh oh, what are we doing here?
It doesn't make sense to me either. No.
Yeah, but never mind. They look good, so it's fine. So yeah, that was vaguely time travel related, I guess, kind of, considering it's 32nd century. But the second thing on my list, I would say, is definitively time travel related. And it is a ship as well, because I always like to chuck some of those in. So hit or miss for the USS Pasteur from All Good Things. Mary, again, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I am not a ship person.
Oh dear, you'd get on well with our friend Will, who every time we do one of these, he's like, they all look the same. They're just spaceships.
I'm like,
Will's currently punching the air.
I am. I don't know, because I don't know enough about ships to really truly have an opinion. So I can only go based on aesthetics, and it's gonna be a miss. It's gonna be a miss for me because that thing is ugly, and that's all I can say about it.
Fair enough. That's okay. DK, do you have anything to add to that?
Didn't they have in expanded media? Didn't they have kind of a prototype version of this with the TOS nacelles and everything? Yeah,
this reminds me a lot of the Daedalus class, which is
I thought it was the
canon, but I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it for that. I mean, I don't love it. It's not, the nog, but yeah, I'm going to go a soft hit.
Awesome. I should say as well that even though this was like an abandoned timeline that this ship was seen in, thanks to Lower Decks, we do know that the Olympic class looking identical does exist canonically in the main timeline, because Mariner served on one of these ships that then docked at DS9. So yay, I guess. And yeah, I like this. I can't really explain. I think I like the Pasteur. I don't love it as a general kind of like just ship fitting somewhere in the fleet, because as much as I do like the throwback to the Daedalus, it doesn't fully work as just a regular fleet ship. But the fact that it's supposed to be a hospital ship, in the case of the Pasteur, I think I like that it does look a bit different. And, if it is fully just devoted to medical stuff, I get why it might have a circular sphere that could be all, I don't know, sick bays or all hospital facilities or something. So I like that it visually stands out. And I do love that they also have the little caduceus, the little medical symbol on the side of the sphere, which is a cool little touch. So yeah, I like it for what it is. Like I said, if you're taking it in this particular ship, fair enough. If you're talking about the Olympic class in general, it's just a bit too different for me to fit in, if it's supposed to do so. So yeah, that's a soft hit, and I think a miss from Mary for that one. So yeah, that's fine. That's overall. I'll take the loss on the Discovery uniforms, considering I got the win for the Pasteur then. So the next thing on my list, let's see. The next thing on my list was a character, and it is from Discovery. I already know DK's answer to this, so I'll probably go to you first, DK, to get it out of the way. So hit or miss for Lieutenant Joanne Oshakun. DK, why not start with you this time?
It's a hit. This woman kicks ass. I was so glad when they featured her in the episode and didn't kill her off, Ariane. Yeah. But yeah, I was terrified for 50 minutes thinking, don't you dare. Don't you dare. Yeah. I think she's a fantastic character. I want to see more of her. I think a lot of the Discovery crew, they deserve to have more time on screen than just the occasional 40 minutes. I know we're probably not going to get it by the nature of the storytelling, but it's such a shame. I think a lot of them are wasted. But I am glad we got to spend time with Oshakun.
Awesome. Mary, what about you?
Hit with me. I have watched not all of Discovery. I haven't made it all the way through, and I do remember her, and I remember the episode where it was and you'll have to tell me, I'm thinking where they were trying to do something and she ended up being like one of the last people who was like conscious in order to get things taken care of. Is that
season 2?
The end of season 3, I think, is what you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, when there's a handful of the crew, and then they're kind of they're all coordinating their escape, but then everybody's running out of oxygen. But I think because she does this a lot, she tends to have the perfect skills for the occasion. In that particular instance, it was I've been training in free diving so I can hold my breath longer.
Right.
There was an incident the very first time she was kind of important was the season 2 episode New Eden, where it was like, you grew up on a Luddite colony, so you know how to relate to people without technology, and I'm just like, this woman seems like she's incredibly skilled at exactly what you need. So
that might be why I have an affinity with her.
Fair enough.
Anyways, I remember that because, like I said, I'm literally on episode 2 of season 4 for Discovery. So
that's fair enough. Like,
it's pressure for me. So I was like, I really like her. I like her spunk.
You've got a really
hit for me.
Good, you've got a great episode coming up because it's about midway through season 4. She gets quite a focus episode.
Yeah.
Where she gets to kind of be the hero, and it's really good and really kick-ass, I will say, without spoiling anything else because you haven't seen it, obviously.
Okay, please don't.
I won't see anything else, but it's good. And I'm going to say hit as well, because even though, like I said, it is perhaps a bit convenient, every time she does kind of need to be called on, she steps up and does great things. And I wasn't even thinking about the season 3 finale, but the fact that she's the one that ultimately goes through, and fair enough, she has to be pulled out very last second by Zora, the AI, I guess, but she still kicked ass and sort of, plowed through and saved everybody's life as far as I'm concerned there. And I like the relationship between her and Detmer, but I do wish, in a sense, that they would just admit that they're dating, because come on. The way they look at each other, it's the subtext is rapidly becoming text. Come on, people, let's just have them be an out couple, because come on, they just are.
That's true.
But I love Oyen Aladejo, I believe the actress's name is, and who's, I think, is fantastic, and with very limited, as you say, screen time sometimes. So not really much to say other than that will be our first unanimous hit of the day.
Yay!
So anything to add before I move to the next one, then, either of you two?
No, I just really liked her. I just thought she just brought a lot.
Awesome. I'm going to move to the next one, which will be an episode which is not time travel related. And again, I don't really know why I put it in. I really hope you've both seen it now that I think of this, because it's quite recent. It's from Strange New Worlds, and it is the episode The Elysian Kingdom. DK, we'll start with you again to mix things up, and because I'm scared Mary hasn't seen this. So there we go.
I really enjoyed this one. I watch it with my family. My father hated it. He hates anything with any kind of whimsy, but I don't think you've edited the episode yet, but we kind of got into this a little in last week when I was speaking to Runa. And,
did you already have it on the hit or miss section?
No, it's not on the hit or miss section, but it just naturally came into the conversation. I love the fact that these characters get every so often, and they're just allowed to breathe, and you're allowed to have, episodes like this, and such as the ones in the original series with, shore leave. I like that you can explore these strange facets of these characters, and it does end up, revealing more of the aspects of each character, but it doesn't bog you down in angst, and it's just such a joy to watch. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
That's awesome. Did you start talking to Runa about it because she has the same name as Christina Chong's dog, by the way?
I didn't. I don't know how. I honestly have no idea how we got talking about it. But yeah, I think we got onto some kind of, going back to Awashikon. I think we got onto Discovery and how it doesn't allow for this kind of episode, and it's a real shame because I think they could do with that kind of exposure.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that one.
I agree with you on that too. I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Mary, first of all, have you seen this episode? And if
yes,
so,
I have. I've seen the entire first season of it. And I feel bad now to say this. I did not like this one.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough.
This one's a miss for me. And it wasn't that the costumes weren't fantastic and beautiful. It's not that I don't like whimsical episodes, because I do. I love it when they're able to get like a little breezy and fun. I felt like for me in this one that the writing was just too shallow and convenient in how they solved the problem at the end. And so I was like disappointed by that. It kind of ruined it for
That's
me.
fair enough. We are gonna probably disagree then in that case, because I'm gonna say the episode's a hit and my favorite part of it is the ending, because I didn't see it coming, and it genuinely surprised me that it was the resolution. Again, don't want to fully get into it in case of spoilers, but that it was a resolution of what I thought was going to be a longer running storyline, that it was resolved and I wasn't expecting it to be.
I guess I wanted it to run longer. I was hoping for it to run a little longer. And so the way that they just kind of tied it up like that made me feel a little bit sad, and like we pushed her off, and it's like, well, we're done now. So
I think that was the desired effect, was that you were supposed to feel a bit sad. Was the point.
That's fair to say. I guess it's just like that was my gut, like where I felt. And so then I was I don't like this one as much.
I see where you're coming from, in that if you didn't like that and you kind of were like, well, I didn't like and it is the ending to, like you said, a sort of a story you've been invested in for several episodes. So not liking the way it's tied up kind of is more annoying, because that now affects all these other episodes. So I fully get that. I do get that if you didn't like it, and I certainly can't say you're wrong to not like it, because
but I had a lot of affection for, like you guys said, the way that the characters were able to like break out of who they were and be these like different, I thought that was fun. It was really the end that kind of ruined it. So I was like, oh.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, just to sort of give the other side of the argument, I guess, in that case, like I said, I love the ending. It shocked me. I was surprised how emotional I got with it. I thought it was Babs Olashuku. I'm probably mispronouncing that. The actor who plays Dr. Mbenga, I think it was his finest hour. A few minutes in the show. In the end of that episode, I absolutely loved it. I loved the little bit of whimsy. I do think I'm kind of 50-50 in terms of how well the main cast members handled it, because I think Ethan Peck, by very nature, I guess, of the character, and Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine were just playing the same kind of characters they always do and didn't really sell me on anything. But like the women, like Christina Chong and Celia Rose Gooding, and the actress who plays Nurse Chapel, whose name is completely Jess Bush. There we go. I thought all three of those were fantastic. Melissa Navia, of course, who was fantastic.
Yes.
That woman could read a phone book and convince me I was watching a fantastic performance. So she was outstanding as well. But
that's a cosplay I would kill to do, right there.
Oh, really? Oh, I'd love to see it.
Her swashbuckler. Oh, so good.
Awesome. So good. Oh, that's cool. That's fair enough then. Right. So, any other thoughts about that one then from either of you before I go on?
No, fine.
Nope, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum, because there was some
not at all,
fun things about it.
Yeah, not at all. And certainly, like I said, I'm not here to say, well, that's the wrong opinion. If you didn't connect with it, you didn't. It's just one of those things. Unfortunately, it's a shame, because I think it's a nice episode, and it would have. I always like to think of these things connecting better with fans, but if it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm sure there was other Strange New Worlds episodes you loved.
They had some really good for their first season. I think I liked 8 out of the 10.
Okay, cool.
So.
I think I was officially 9 out of 10 liked, probably about 3 or 4 loved. So
yeah.
Awesome. Everybody by now probably knows the one I don't like, but I'll just say the word gone and leave it at that. Anyway. So the next one I had on my list was a ship again. So apologies in advance for this, Mary. So again, I don't even know why I came up with these. They're just completely at random, but it's vaguely, again, time travel related. It's from Discovery, and it is a ship. So hit or miss, Cleveland Booker's ship, as it's known, because it doesn't get a name. So, Mary, we'll start with you. I know again.
I don't even recognize this, so I'm not sure.
I'm gonna go next then, just to mix things up, and I'm gonna say I also think it's a miss, just because I don't get it. It looks ugly. It doesn't have any recognizable like propulsion system. I don't mind that the main view window thing, I guess, is kind of around a corner, because it kind of looks cool, but my head can't fathom where the actual cargo storage is for what's meant to be a cargo ship. And every time it does that daft Transformer Megazord thing and just splits into multiple parts to reconfigure, I'm like, nah. I know it's the far future and you want to do something that looks cool, but this is just dumb. I just, my head can't fathom where the pieces came from and where they went to. It's like watching a Michael Bay Transformers movie. I'm just like, nope, not on board for this. So yeah, apologies if you're a fan of it, but it's a miss for me and a rare Eagle Moss model that I don't own. And yeah, DK, will finish up with you then. Hit or miss for Bookship.
I agree completely. If you were just saying, what do you think of the interior? I'd say, wow, that's lovely, Mike.
Yes.
I like the bridge area. I like the bedroom area. Although those two, I think, are the only parts you've seen of the ship. The outside, no. To me, it's like the space version of Tron's Recognizer. Every time it splits up and flies apart,
Nerd.
it just reminds me of that.
At least we're all in agreement. We don't particularly like it, but I'll do one more, then we'll finish on 6 because that seems like a nice solid number. So I have a species or an episode. I'm going to let you pick, DK. Which one should I pick out of those two?
We'll go for species.
Fair enough. Again, just completely at random, hit or miss for the Breen. And again, Mary, will start with you if that's okay.
Okay. Whenever I have seen the Breen, I felt like it was Star Trek trying to be Star Wars. So
yeah, it is the Leia bounty hunter disguise.
I love Traffic Booth.
I'm just like, we already have done this, so it's a little. It feels a little unnecessary, and it's like, yeah, I wanted to like them. I did. I wanted to, but it just felt a little too copycatty.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I can fully understand that. I'm gonna go to DK because I'm kind of still torn on this, and I'm curious to know what you're gonna say.
I love them.
Okay,
it's a definite hit for me. I wasn't entirely sold, but before I'd watched the entirety of Deep Space Nine, I read a novel, Zero Sum Game. Forgive me, I can't remember the author. In which Bashir infiltrated a Breen stronghold, and it just sold me on them completely. And yeah, I know it's non-canon stuff, but yeah, I've never been able to get that novel out of my head since. And I just the coverall. I mean, I love the helmet. The coverall's a bit hit or miss, as it were, but the race itself, I love them. Hit.
That's fair enough. That novel's by David Mack, just to give credit where it's due.
There we go. Sorry, David.
Is my friend.
Yeah.
Awesome. See, I was going to say this, and I may as well say, I'm going to say soft hit, because I'm very torn in that I don't, like Mary, I don't like the look of them. They do seem very copycat and kind of weird. I like the idea that they're kind of from a planet that's so cold and not like what we're used to, that they have to kind of wear something that hides them, and so we don't really know what they look like. That's a cool idea. But I feel like they could have done more with the design of that to make it look, again, without getting into full-on Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze territory, I guess they probably could have done something better than Star Wars Bounty Hunter. But I do like the way they're employed in the story that they're in quite a lot of the time. So I thought it was cool when one of them turned up as a prisoner of the Dominion when Bashir was captured. And I love what they did with the seventh season of DS9 when it needed a sort of fresh injection in the whole Dominion War, and it became like, oh, these guys are turning the tide because they have a cool weapon that can get straight through our shields or whatever. So I like the way they used, which is how I'm going to say sort of soft hit, but I'd be happy for them to do a complete visual redesign and just make them look a bit better. That's all I've really got to say about that.
Fair enough.
But still, two hits and one miss would give them a hit. So awesome. We'll move on then, because that will conclude the hit or miss section for this week, and we'll get into our episode review finally. And as I say, we do break this into sections, so this is the section that I will call Begin Analysis. As I mentioned, we are looking this week at the episode Yesteryear from the animated series. I do have a little bit of behind-the-scenes information about the episode, so Again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, maybe watch it. It's only like 22 minutes. Without further ado, here is my musical accompaniment so people don't get bored. Ah, there we go. So, the episode Yesteryear. At the time that it was plotted, the writer of this episode, DC Fontana, asked herself, because it was her that explored the conflicted state of relations between Spock and Sarek in Journey to Babel, she asked the question, how had that relationship been before and why did it evolve the way it did? So yeah, that's where the genesis of the idea came from. The reuse of the Guardian of Forever from the city on the edge of Forever was not only a tie-in to one of the most popular episodes of TOS, but it also minimized the need for exposition about time travel, which was important because there's a heck of a lot to fit into this very short episode. So there we go. Shortly after working on the episode, Fontana remarked, as to who and what Ichaya would be as a character, I decided he'd be closely patterned on my large cat, Bobby McGee. While Bobby is not old and fat, he has the same affection, snuggle ability, the fastest claws in the West, and complete disregard for orders. One word from me and he does exactly as he pleases. That statement fits both Bobby and Ichaya. So, yeah. With regards to Ichaya, apparently Fontana, who wrote the episode, insists that we're all pronouncing it wrong. She actually wanted it to be pronounced Ichaya, but the voice actor that they hired to play young Spock pronounced it Ichaya, and the rest just kind of had to fall in line and copy it. So, oops. Yeah, getting a bit kind of heavier into the themes of the episode, the euthanizing of Ichaya embodied a theme that Fontana was eager to teach youngsters about. And she said, I actually wanted to do a story that dealt with death. It seemed to me that so many times children are not aware of death, and then when a pet dies, the child is devastated, and the parents find it difficult to explain the situation. I wanted to touch on a way to deal with the subject. The network actually didn't want to do that. They kind of resisted the plot of the episode involving that, but it was Gene Roddenberry who, as he often did, went to bat for Fontana and got the episode sort of aired as it was. And to this day, weirdly enough, there have been zero complaints about that from anybody, and a heck of a lot of praise actually for it. So it seems like it was the right decision. There we go. Due to the limited time constraints of the animated series, as mentioned, DC Fontana found there wasn't enough time for an in-depth exploration of what eventually happened to Thalen, the Andorian first officer. She felt that answering the question of whether he was wiped from existence by Spock's time traveling might have been better addressed if this episode had been longer than half an hour. She said this is ethical time traveling because it deals with characters. If something is changed in another section of time, it causes a ripple effect, like a pebble thrown in a pond. Ideally, if the story would have dealt more with the characters, it could have been more effective, but this is truly a Vulcan and Spock story, so we had to go with it from that perspective. In terms of nerdy spots, there are a few kind of colouring errors and stuff that happen in the episode, but the most notable continuity screw-up is that Vulcan has a moon, which, as we know, is said in the original series not to be the case, but my word, it's been back and forth a few times, including the original theatrical cut of the Star Trek motion picture, which also had a moon in Vulcan sky, which was then removed for the director's edition. So, does Vulcan have a moon? Spock says it doesn't, then it does, then it doesn't. Who knows? So any thoughts, guys, on the kind of little bit of behind-the-scenes info I gave there?
I've got a little tidbit. If you're
cool.
Billy Simpson, who plays young Spock, he was 9 years old when his agent got in the audition, or he thought it was an audition. He went along and couldn't understand why they kept giving him lines, and it turned out they'd already chosen him, and what he thought was an audition was him actually recording the episode.
Aww.
Awesome. Yeah, Mary, any thoughts on the behind the scenes info that we've given there?
Well, the stuff that you said about the whole, Ichaya dying and everything and needing to make a choice about that, I was actually going to talk about. I was like,
oh, well, we will.
I was like, this is actually quite deep. I found it, when I was just like, I was folding my laundry and just trying, absorbing the episode for like the 5th time because I wanted to be prepared for this. And I thought, and it just really hit me, I think the 3rd time through. And I was like, wait a second. I'm like, they're asking this kid, like, to make this kind of decision. And okay, so fun fact about me, I grew up on a farm. And so this kind of stuff happens. And I am aware of it. And I was aware of it at a young age. And, sometimes my dad had to deal with a farm animal that got hurt and it wasn't going to get better. And so, this to me, I thought was actually a quite gentle way to deal with the subject matter, and I appreciated it. I was like, this is very nicely done. This is very nicely done.
Yeah.
I find the animated series in and of itself high comedy most of the time.
Probably true.
Because to me it's like the original series times 10 in campiness. And
I mean, they have a giant balloon shaped like the Enterprise in one episode. So.
Right. And this episode was one that I did not laugh at.
Yeah, no.
I just really thought this one was very thoughtful, very, very thoughtful indeed. And it was I'm trying to get back to, like what you were saying and everything that in DC Fontana talking about what she was doing when she wrote this, and it did help in understanding how Spock and Sarek, like how their relationship developed and everything. And because I was like looking at it in that way, I was like, okay, so this is how Spock was as a kid. Although I guess the one thing after like maybe the 5th time, I was laughing at the like Vulcan boys outfits, because that is sometimes
one of the notes that I made was why does young Spock just have the most scantily clad outfit on for no apparent reason?
Like all of the
boys. Put a top on, man.
I know, they're all
that coupled with the disappearance of Spock and the cousin, and Sarek saying, maybe we should be worried. And you're like, you think?
Yeah, I thought that was a bit too convenient as well, the way that sort of adult Spock ingratiates himself by simply going, oh, I'm a cousin, I'm related to, this person on this side, and Sarek's like, oh, well, come in, make yourself at home. I'm like, you didn't recognize the dude. Fair enough, you give it a little bit of, you do have a little familiarity. I'll just have one of those faces. I was like, would you really just open your house to any random person that was like, I'm a cousin, settle down?
Well, here's the thing about that. To me, it's like, okay, so I feel like Sarek would take him at his word because Vulcans don't lie. But the thing is that nothing that Spock specifically said was lying, because he is related to those people that he said he was related to. But it's still deception. And I'm like, wait a second, I thought Vulcans don't lie. So
you say Vulcans don't lie, but I've seen Star Trek Enterprise. They spent a good 3 seasons doing that. Pajam anyone? Yeah.
Anyway, so just if you're just going like that, and it is you're not wrong. Like, why?
Oh, it was a nitpick. Don't get me wrong. I mean, again, it's a 22-minute or whatever episode, so this is nitpicking because you've got to get to the story, and I certainly wouldn't expect DC Fontana to be like, now I'm going to have to spend 10 minutes explaining how Spock convinced them. It's like, nope, doesn't matter. Move on. So
I also do like the little detail of Spock asking the name of the son that died, and I'm pointing at the screen going, oh, confirmation of Cybot.
Oh, okay. Going back to kind of the start of the episode, DK, you'll appreciate this. They're bloody assisting historians with time travel again, like it's just blasé.
Yeah.
I had this problem with the...
clock in, go up some life, clock out.
We had this issue with Assignment Earth. It's just, don't open your episode with we're just handily walking through a time vortex, just doing some scans. Like, no, stop it. This never goes.
It was very abrupt. It was very abrupt.
I realize it had to be, and it's more understandable here than it was in Assignment Earth, where it is.
I'm going to say it's a bit more forgivable in this.
Yeah, Captain's log, we're orbiting Earth of the 60s. Don't even worry about it. But yeah. I've mentioned already the reason why they use the Guardian, they don't have to explain it and stuff, but I did still feel it was a little bit of hang on when they, again, without really getting into it, because just like we're at the planet of the time vortex, center of all timelines in the galaxy, and I was like, if you hadn't seen City on the Edge of Forever, I'm going to need a bit more explanation than that, But
I can't see Kirk being so readily eager to go back there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool, and we got to see
You would think not. I wondered so the Kirk and Spock and the random red-shirted man. they go to Orion and they see Orion at the beginning of its civilization. And I was curious as to why. Like, why are they there?
Yeah. They just say literally they're just there because, what was it? I have it written down. Yeah, the Federation historians want to know about like Federation planets history, so they're just going to catalog it or something. It's like, but it is done.
It was just kind of weird. But then also the other part of this whole thing is they, when they come out and McCoy doesn't know who Spock is. And I think that was funny. They get back on this ship and, then Scotty doesn't know who Spock is. And they're trying to figure out, they're like, well, we didn't do anything while we were in there. And even the red-shirted guy, who remains nameless, I think, has a line.
Careful, you're dangerously close to making a red shirt joke.
I know that. Well, here's the thing. The red-shirted guy said, we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything to change anything. What's going on? So he and Kirk are the two people who know who Spock is. But we never see that red-shirted man again. After that, he's done. He's out.
He's going to turn up in an episode of Star Trek Prodigy in a few.
Maybe by restoring the timeline, they wiped him out. I mean, he's a red shirt.
Right, probably.
Yeah, I did get into it. Like, did they wipe out Thalen? So who knows? But that was one of the questions. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mary.
No. That was the other thing when they go in and they run into Thalen. I was like, I thought that he was going to be. And this is just me, and I'm giving you my initial gut reactions when I was watching it for the first time. I thought he was going to be more integral to the plot. I thought he was part of the problem. I thought he did something, and then it turns out he didn't do anything. And then they have this thing about, he knows he's going to be wiped from the timeline or something, because Spock says to him, he's like, I've never known Andorians to be particularly charitable. He's like, yeah, but we like family. So good, because your mom's going to be okay. And I was like, what? This is so convenient.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, I love that, because I love that character is so noble, and because it was such a shock that I was not expecting that his reaction would be, oh, so you're going to correct the timeline. Well, I understand, because we also have a deep love for family. So live long and prosper in your world, Spock. And I'm just like, okay, all right, fair. Not sure I'd be quite so noble if I'd be like, off, you're not going in there to wipe me out, dude. Yeah, whatever, I guess. Yeah, I did like that. I thought that was well played by Jimmy Doohan, the man of 1,000 voices as well in that moment. So. Yeah.
That was him. I didn't catch that. See, I didn't look at much like who was doing what voices. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was another one of the quick facts that I should have written down but didn't, was that this is one of the, I think, 3 episodes in which James Doohan plays the most characters, because off the top of my head,
he's the Guardian as well, doesn't he?
He's the Guardian of Forever, which I didn't particularly like, because I prefer Barbara Rue's voice, and I don't like what James Doohan does with it here. He's definitely Thalen the Andorian. He's definitely the Vulcan Elder, because that guy just sounds a bit like Scotty moved to Vulcan. So that's
yeah.
All right.
The healer guy, is that what you
Yeah.
I mean, I get with the Guardian, they're going for a bit more of an eerie vibe, kind of Scooby-Doo like for the kiddies, but I do miss Bartel LaRue.
He did kind of miss eerie and mysterious, and just came off as, what's this time vortex thing frightened of them?
Oh no, you don't want to go down there.
You can if you want, Captain, but no.
The Scooby-Doo thing, like that feels like right. That's the correct vibe right there.
Yes, and that brings me to that's conveniently brings me to a point that's like, I know it's the animation style, but every time they cut to like a shadow version of like young Spock or adult Spock running somewhere in the shadows, I was like, this is just full on Scooby-Doo animation.
Yeah!
You expect to see the gang following him.
I know, that's exactly what I thought.
Like zoinks, young Spock.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's good that Ichaya didn't talk. So it's probably what we would have ended up with.
Whoa, Spock. Whoa.
I'm not feeling too good.
Oh, now I just want to watch a version of the episode where somebody does that. Just jumps him in. In a way, it would fit because, as you can see from my little kind of profile icon here, the creature that ultimately does for Aichaya is clearly Cringer from He-Man.
I'm going to say Cringer.
No, I was looking at it and I was like, that looks like He-Man.
It's Filmation. They just reused that, didn't they, when they did the He-Man cartoon?
Yeah.
Very probably, man. Very probably. You know what they're like for stock shots and things, as we said. So.
Oh yeah.
And
they sure do.
I know that they're kind of like they can do what they want because it's an animation budget and stuff. But I did also find the kind of what should be just regular cars and stuff on Vulcan were very Jetsons. I was like, all right, calm down.
And talk about land hugging. Shit. When he went over that rise at the end.
Exactly. Oh man.
I thought it was funny that the car was pink. I don't know why.
Everything's pink in the animated series because the animated colorblind. So yeah, he just painted everything the wrong color. I'm sure I've mentioned this somewhere before. Like I said, yeah, because he was colorblind. He thought everything was pink or various shades of like odd colors. So if you watch various episodes of the animated series, the Klingon tunics that they wear are bright pink. The tribbles are all bright pink. All like bright white in that episode. The Andorian chap in this episode is more grey than blue, to the point that in one of the spin-off books they say he's half Enoch to explain the fact that he's just coloured wrong. Yeah, I do remember this coming up when people were arguing about they'd cast a black actor to play what's his name? Robert April. People were like, he was portrayed as white in the TV series. And I think somebody on Twitter, it wasn't me, I can't take credit for it, had said, like, guys, we're just lucky they didn't make him pink. It's like, yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Like, don't take the fact he's white as canon. Look at some of the other miscolorings in that series.
Oh, for real. Now, okay, this is a little off, but it has to do with the pink. But just because, and it's a stretch on that. When Spock talks to Amanda, they do like their original series, like zooming in on the pretty woman. This is him talking to his mother.
Yeah.
He's talking to his mother. And why are we doing this?
Didn't she also like strike a kind of sleazy pose as she was talking?
Yes, she sure did in that pink dress that she was in.
This was the one and only note that I made about the music was that just like this is supposed to be an emotional family drama, and all I'm getting from the music is telenovela. Oh, see, Amanda. No, stop it. Yeah, that also brings me to another point, which is that I think credit to James Doohan, because you wouldn't necessarily know it's him in the voices he does most of the time, but Majel Barrett, make an effort, love. It was the archaeologist woman and Amanda were just Nurse Chapel. It wasn't even disguised.
No,
like, you're better than this, surely. Come on.
It would have been nice to have Jane Wyatt back.
Yeah. I think they did try. I was reading somewhere, but they just
I think it says she wasn't available or something.
Yeah. But, having said that, it was great to hear Mark Leonard again, and that he came back as Sarek, though. So,
Yes.
You definitely won with that one. Yeah. Awesome.
I know everybody wants a plush Murf, but I want a plushy sehlat.
This is. I apologize in advance because this is a really nerdy kind of geek question, but so the kind of change history so that Spock died, and that's why Dalen's the new first officer and stuff. So like, why doesn't Spock just disappear? How's adult Spock just hanging out on the Enterprise? Like, well, I'm supposed to be here, so I guess I'm just gonna sit here anyway, Captain. What of it? So, which I was just like, that's surely there's got to be a better way they could explain that. Normally they would say something like, I was protected by the temporal wake, being close to it or something.
I don't know. I kind of glossed over. I'm going to break out my my Joel Hodgson gift for you, Mike.
Repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. Okay, Mystery Science Theater guy.
I didn't quite think that deeply about it, even though I have recently watched Back to the Future, and I was just like, oh no.
The other note that I made, which was kind of, you've touched on it already, but the kind of bullying of the Vulcan kids to Spock, I was like, J.J. Abrams has seen this episode, huh?
That's pretty much translated verbatim, isn't it?
It is almost word for word, yes.
Yep.
All right. And I like it in Star Trek 09, those scenes, so I kind of appreciated it here. But again, I think they're better acted in the movie because the boys here were just very stereotypically quite emotional, first of all, and very much like, nah, 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 fuck, you're a human, man. I was like, oh dear. I was sure I recognized the LaMancha's kind of roars, and when I looked up the episode,
Isn't it Godzilla?
It's Godzilla, just cut and paste.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Okay. Fair enough. That makes sense, I guess.
I didn't have to look it up. Yes, I'm that big a nerd.
Hey, I respect that. I'm going to give you respect for that one.
No, that's a fun fact. That's a fun
Yeah,
fact.
exactly. In terms of the writing, as I will say as well, that we may as well touch on this. I love that. I think this is the first time they officially say in canon, without any doubt, Vulcans actually do have emotions. They just suppress them. Because throughout, I think it was an awful lot of, no, Vulcans don't have emotions. And I was like, oh, I love this because I feel like I have to explain this to casual fans and non-fans all the time where they're like, oh, Vulcans don't have emotions. I'm like, no, they do, damn it.
They just control them.
Yeah, I do like how it comes full circle with Spock's line at the end. I think thematically it's really well done, especially when you consider the darker themes of the episode.
Definitely, 100%, yeah. I was a little bit confused about the fact that the Ichaya stuff didn't happen before to Spock, even though the rest of it was kind of, it needs to be a bootstrap paradox, I guess, but that changed. But I guess I forgive it because I really found it quite profound when Spock said the only change was the loss of a pet, and Kirk was very like it wouldn't matter, and Spock was like it would to some. So.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that goes back to the Vulcans have emotions, and that to me it strikes a chord, and my heart breaks at that point.
Right, because then you see that even though Spock chose to go the Vulcan way and do the Vulcan things and wanted to keep himself on that path and alive, obviously, but that he still recognizes his human side and to get to have that affection for that pet. And also I think it's just nice to see that as a child that he was still like so open. I don't know that's me. That's my human side coming out there.
Yeah, no, I think that's deliberate. That's written that way. But I do kind of leave myself again. The nerdy part of me is like, well, so if that was so pivotal to Spock choosing the Vulcan side of things, to help him deal with these things, then how come he chose it before when it didn't happen? And it's kind of all right. It's weird. It's time travel, but I'll let you off because the emotion's there, but logically, I don't know if I can reconcile this, but whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgive it because I will say that I think the combination of Fontana's writing and the way Nimoy delivers it really touched me, really moved me. I think it was handled very well, the way that young Spock says, how can you not react with emotion to this? And the way he says, it would only be worth being sad if a life was wasted and Ichaya's was not. I was like, oh, wow, that's a really deep and sort of surprisingly profound way of looking at it, and to talk to kids that way and not talk down to them and be like, no, think about it. And again, the idea that even young Spock is like, no, he deserves a bit of dignity, I think was like, that's a big word to throw at children.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes. It really did. I mean, like that whole thing, and just like. If you look at it as like how Spock is as a character, just in general, just that whole that scene right there really sums up Spock as a character. It really does, because it's like he saw Ichaya's sacrifice, and while he was still like learning these things, to be the Spock that we would know later, who's like the needs of the many, and but that really, like, I felt like that was probably foundational for him.
That's what I mean. I think I don't love that they said this was a change, because I think in my mind I want this to have always happened, because it is so foundational, and it is such a clever way of writing that idea of, I want to be emotionally sad, but logically there's no reason because it wasn't a wasted life. So that naturally I can see why a young boy would think, oh, I'll veer towards the logic side then, because it's less painful, and I guess it still makes complete sense. So yeah, I kind of love the way that was written. I thought it was good. Awesome. Excuse me. On On the less kind of positive side of things, I do not love the fact that they had to include what I'm going to call the Superman 3 moment, where older Spock taught young Spock how to nerve pinch so that he could go back and beat up the bullies. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Just no. We don't need it. And on a similar note, I don't love Dr. McCoy's exasperated racism. It just seems a bit exaggerated when he's like, do you know, Spock, it's so convenient having to reconfigure this for Vulcans every time. I'm like, dude, you serve in Starfleet. Come on, man. Shut up.
I know. Like...
I think that fell flat at the end.
Yeah, it did.
I think they just put it in because, DeForest had a contract. It just didn't seem to gel with the rest of it.
Whilst we're on the subject as well, I don't even know why I think this, but I find his line delivery when he doesn't recognize Spock hilarious. It's just the way that he's so offhandedly when, instead of any emotion or whatever, Kirk's like, you recognize Spock, our first officer. And he's just like, afraid I don't, Jim.
Yep. It's just like, afraid I don't.
What? Afraid I don't. Oh, well, fair enough.
Not even remotely concerned about it either.
Yeah, not even thinking, not like, well, I'm confused why you're thinking that. Like, no, don't move on. But yeah, I don't love that part of the ending, but I will say I do think the line times change is a killer last line because it's funny and yet has the sort of dual double meaning because time has changed. Haha. So,
Yep.
I like that. I think I've talked a lot about the acting other than to say that, Mark Leonard as Sarek is just so good. And all the scenes between him and Leonard Nimoy, who obviously also excels, as always, I think were probably my highlight acting-wise of the episode. Didn't love Jimmy Doohan's Guardian of Forever voice, but I thought he was good everywhere else.
I don't understand why you don't love it.
There's an awful lot of overacting in places, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. All is as it used to be. Leave me alone. So, any other notes on the acting then before I move on from that from either of you guys?
I just think it would have been funny had they kept this voice in Discovery. Oh, I am the Guardian of Forever.
There would have been the levity that you were looking for, the whimsy. You're like, oh,
exactly. Oh, no, we'll send you back to a time before the universes were so divergent.
They probably would have ended up being like, it would have been like, Ebenezer Scrooge.
Don't worry, Michelle, you may get a spin-off yet.
That's exactly what they Where will you send me? We're sending you to a spin-off. We bloody hope someday. Nice.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Ow. I've actually got a stitch from laughing at that. Anyway. So the next sort of section that I have is just the regular sort of direction and the art styles and stuff. And I love that, as Fontana touches on in her discussions, that the animation give you a chance to see a lot more of Vulcan than you could in the original series. So it looks cool and it looks like sweeping and futuristic and desert vistas and everything. And I like that. I think it's great.
I know we poke fun at the Filmation thing a lot simply because they reuse a lot of shots. But even now, I do think the animation still holds up quite well.
Oh yeah, I mean that was my next note, was that I actually find the animation, the Filmation style quite charming for the most part.
I think for its age, I think this one, looks amazing.
Definitely. If you're happy for me to move on, then I did want to briefly talk a little bit about the reception to this episode without getting too far into it. I will note that originally Gene Roddenberry and Michael and Denise Okuda had decided that the animated series would not be canonical, but they all stipulated that this episode is the only exception to that rule, stating their reasoning as being partly because it's reinforced by material in Unification Part 1 and Journey to Babel, but also because of DC Fontana's pivotal role in developing the background for Spock in the original Star Trek series. It's not only Roddenberry and the Okudas who accept the events of the episode to be canon, many other production staffers also do. And there's a massive positive reaction to the episode. Sorry, DK, did you want to say
No,
something?
I'm going to say I don't like this. I consider all of it canon.
Oh, it is now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, some of them are completely stupid, but they're fun, and you can't say that they're no more campy than a lot of the things that happened in the original series.
Oh yeah, I should have clarified that this was a kind of an ongoing thing, that this existed but wasn't canon for a while. But ever since kind of CBS got hold of the franchise, they kind of officially on all the websites and everything just said, nope, it's canon, it's televised Star Trek. And as we've mentioned already, Mike McMahon of Lower Decks is clearly a fan, because he made so many things canon by including them in Lower Decks, including the gigantic Spock. And,
yes, I love that episode.
And things like the Cation officers, the Adosians, the Kazinti. There's a Kazinti on the Cerritos Bridge as well. So now we can.
That was built when I saw that.
There's that one Cation on Prodigy too. She showed up right.
Oh
away.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I am intrigued, but I was screaming as soon as I saw her. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a Cation!
We are such nerds.
I was like, it's from the animated series. They've got a Cation now. This is where it needs to be. And I feel like just having Janeway in it, like, completely canonized all of that. And I was just like, all right, this is legit now.
I love this. The nerd scale goes up to 10, but this goes to 11.
Exactly. Precisely right. Awesome. I don't want to get too far into this because I was going to talk about reception, but there's reams and reams on Memory Alpha that you can look up. Suffice to say that it is an incredibly popular episode. It's usually regarded as the best episode of the animated series, bar none. Often one of the best episodes of any Star Trek.
I know we've poked fun at it a lot, but I think it's a fantastic episode.
It is. Yeah. It really is. I mean,
we'll get to that. So, awesome. Because we'll give our favorite we'll give our favorite character moment, line, and sort of conclusion and score as well eventually. So that would be cool. The episode did obtain a Film Con award for DC Fontana. David Gerald, the writer of Trouble with Tribbles and More Troubles, More Troubles, cites it as his favorite animated series episode. The reference book Where No One Has Gone Before describes it as one of the finest episodes and the show's most popular episode. Judith and Garfield Reeves Stevens have found it to be very emotionally effective and mention it in the Art of Star Trek book as being a highlight. Like I said, I could go on forever. The book Star Trek 101 cites it as the best episode of the animated series. Unofficial reference book 25th Anniversary Celebration cites this episode due to Mark Leonard reprising Sarek as one of three that collectively are regarded as the plus side of the animated Trek series, with the other two being Mud's Passion and More Troubles, More Troubles. So, awesome. So suffice to say, very popular episode. I will. What I'll do, I'll go on to the sort of audience response, because I don't have that much, and I'll since I'm dealing with reception, I will go to the section that I quite nerdily call was it Subspace Communications. I forgot myself there. We've only done 60 of these, and I forgot what name I gave it. So
Incoming transmission.
So I did put out a sort of a message on social media to ask what were your opinions of Yesteryear, and heck, why not just generally the animated series? And I did get some responses on slowly dying website Twitter. We're not going to go there. We got a few responses, including ZX Jeff Owen, who said, for a long time, even when the animated series was not considered part of regular canon, Yesteryear was. You can see why. A great story fleshing out Spock's childhood and the return of the Guardian of Forever. The animated series best, pure and simple. At Alex J. Harmon says, I've seen it and thought it was a pretty good episode. At Jillsville7 says, it's wonderful. Every Trekkie needs to see this episode, even if it's the only animated episode they see. And at Professor Troy D. Wood said, this is my favorite animated series episode. I was 6 when this was on, so it's my first Trek. And I loved it bringing life to Amanda's Sehlat story from Journey to Babel. So, awesome. On slowly growing website Mastodon, we're still not going there. We're not going to go. We did get some feedback. At Kaiju Whisperer at mstdn.social says, I love all of the animated episodes, and Yesteryear is a strong one. My personal favorite is the Infinite Vulcan, mostly because of the sheet holy cowness of the giant clones. Overall, my love for the series in general is because they were able to have much bigger story concepts, animation being much cheaper than special effects, because they kept the philosophical dilemmas at the core of each episode, regardless of their Saturday morning cartoon audience. And finally, at carebearlib at nerdculture.de just says, I've seen the episode, I like it, but it also makes me sad since Spock's pet died. My favorite animated series episode is the Lorelei signal because Uhura gets to take command of the ship.
Yep.
Hey.
Yep. Solid episode.
Awesome. So yeah, as I say, we'll move into the final sort of parts of our conclusions and stuff because we've probably kept Mary far too long.
Spock analysis.
So the first thing then on the list for this is I wanted to know everyone's favorite character from the episode. Mary, do you want us to start with you?
Okay, my favorite character in this episode is Baby Spock, regardless of his outfit. Regardless of his outfit.
Yeah, so you went with the young Spock. Any sort of reasons why, other than the obvious?
Just because of his his growth arc. I feel like that was like everybody said, it's pretty well out there, and to be honest, the kid did do a good job of like with the voice acting and everything. It was affecting. It was especially when I try a dives. So
yeah. What about you, DK? Who was your favorite character in this thing?
I'm going to go with Spock, but I'm going to go with the older version.
Okay.
As a character, even when we glimpse snippets of his hold and culture in the original series, it was usually through the lens of a surrogate along with him, one of the humans like Kirk or McCoy. So it's nice to see events unfold from the Vulcan perspective. I think it also it serves to underline Spock's grasp of the tenets of being Vulcan too. So I think, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. I'm going to go wildly left field then and say that my favorite character was actually Thalen. Because okay. I love the fact that it was someone that we didn't recognize or didn't know from the original series, so we didn't have that kind of recognition factor to back it up. And yet in just a few lines, I think I was like, I want to know more about this guy. I love that he's noble and he's all about his family and he doesn't question his place when he's told he doesn't exist there. And like, yeah, I love that guy. so yeah.
To be fair, I'm like that with most Andorians. I love Andorians as a species.
That's fair
I
enough.
love Andorians.
Yeah, Andorians are cool. They are a good species. Awesome. So what was your favorite moment, sorry, Mary, in the episode?
Let's see, my favorite moment was, well, I honestly liked it when Baby Spock was like leaving and telling Ichaya to like stay, and Ichaya was like, no.
Not following. Yeah. That's fair enough. That's cool.
I just think it was a cute moment that could have been like really cheesy, but it wasn't. It was sweet. And also
that's the voice of a woman with experience with animals who just don't do as they're told. Really.
Right. No, I know. And when you gave that background, about DC saying that this was like her cat, I was like, yeah.
Like Bobby Mickey, great name for a cat, by the way.
Right. It was just a sweet little moment that just brought some just made you care that Ichaya was even there.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, again, for a character that didn't talk.
Right.
Awesome. Cool. DK, what about you? What was your favorite moment?
I wouldn't exactly say favorite, but the scene which had the most impact for me is the one where he's going to make the decision about the fate of Shia.
Yeah. And I said the same thing. Again, favorite isn't necessarily the word, but sort of what I think is probably the best moment. I just said is the moment where Spock explains how you face such a loss without tears and without emotion, because it was good that it finally explained the nature of Vulcans and got across kind of, for people watching how to deal with that kind of thing. And again, for kids, it's a nice lesson. So yeah, I like that. And finally, what was your favorite line of dialogue, Mary?
You know what? I did think that Thalen's line, that was one that really stuck out to me because I was so surprised that he wasn't a bad guy in this episode.
Yeah.
Ooh, what's he plotting? He looks mean. And so, and then it's like, he's not plotting anything at all, Mary. And I was like, oh,
it's just lovely.
he's just a nice Andorian who just like showed up. He just happens to be here. And okay. So yeah, I really thought that I thought that line when he said that it's, you know, talking about how the Andorians value family and everything as well, and he thinks that it's good, and he basically just like kindly bows out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, DK?
You mentioned it earlier. It's the bit where Kirk says, "A pet? Well, that wouldn't mean much in the course of time." And Spock says, "It might to some." I think it's very understated, but when you consider his dialogue with his younger self earlier, it's totally heartbreaking. I mean,
yeah, I should have thought of that a bit more, but yeah, I didn't put that as my favorite line. I've already sort of touched on why and referenced it, but my favorite line, I say a line, it's a long one, is, "What you do not yet understand, Spock, is that Vulcans do not lack emotion. It is only that ours is controlled. Logic offers a serenity humans seldom experience in full. We have emotions, but we deal with them and do not let them control us." Because I'm a nerd, and I was like, yes, I'll save that. And next time somebody tells me Vulcans don't have emotions, I'll be like, look, go watch this episode. It tells you all about it. So, awesome. Right, so all that's left to do then for this episode is to give our conclusions and score. So what's best to do? DK, why don't we start with you, because we don't want to throw Mary in at the deep end, I guess. So we'll grab your conclusion and score first.
I've got an extremely well written, and for a children's cartoon, especially at the time, emotional and thought-provoking episode. Yesteryear takes the best from the live-action show that preceded it and creates a tale that could only be achieved in animation. The result is an intriguing 20 minutes of television that's not only good in its own right, but also nails down some essential lore for the series going forward. Excellent performances from Nimoy and Mark Leonard underline just how big of an underrated gem this is. This would have been very important to me as a child growing up, and the fact that I can recognize this from an adult's perspective all these years later demonstrates just how much Dorothy Fontana hit the nail on the head. The animated series is oft disregarded as meaningless, but while it does have its share of the outlandish, episodes like Yesteryear show that it's just as important a part of the franchise as its live-action counterparts. To me, it's a classic, and for good reason, and I've given it 4.5 deltas.
Oh, awesome. So 4.5 out of 5. Cool. Yeah, I should explain again. We always just have our written conclusions down because we can't remember things. So that's why it sounds like we're reading a script, because we kind of usually are.
Yeah.
Mine won't be that long then.
Yeah, that's fine. We don't expect our guests to do that or anything. So if you just want to sort of even go with your thoughts off the top of your head, then a score, that's fair enough. But I'll probably go next. Then in that case, I'll give you some time to gather your thoughts, Mary. But,
okay.
Yeah, it's a weird one for me. I think it's a very good episode by an exceptional woman writing what she does best, which is the Spock backstory. A lot of things that would become iconic about Vulcans are created or set in stone here, and it's surprisingly deep and somewhat hard-hitting. Perhaps it's due to the insane level it's been hyped, but I do think it may be a little bit overrated. Sorry. It's definitely not perfect. There's far too many conveniences, contrivances, and no time for anything to really have an impact. Admittedly, this is due to the limitations of the format, especially time, and it's impressive how much it fits in, but you really feel to me like this should have been a full 50-minute episode, and it's been cut down without any prejudice or due consideration. It's also notable that it uses its animated format to show a lot more of a brilliantly developed planet Vulcan, but otherwise it's oddly restrained. There are also things like the aforementioned criticisms of animation errors and some of the acting and the regulars being a bit recognizable. That said, the performances by Nimoy and Leonard are truly as good as their reputation deserves, and the emotional core of the episode does survive, even if it does leave me personally with a bit of whiplash when you try and live and dwell in that feeling for a little bit. I got the sense of a script that could have been close to perfect, but just exists in the wrong medium. There's lots to love, though, and you have to appreciate it for the impact it would have on the franchise, as evidenced by just how many similar stories have been told involving younger versions of Spock, time travel, family relationships, etc. But DC Fontana is still unmatched in that area. And yeah, I went with 3.5 deltas, or 3.5 out of 5. So yeah. Mary, we'll come to you, then we can hold it off any longer. So
all
what
right.
did you give it?
Okay. Well, I thought that this was a very sweet look at the childhood of Spock. I thought that it was something that was necessary in order for, people to understand where he came from and how he has dealt with his human side, especially, this being the next thing after the original series. So quite important to lore, like DK said, and I appreciate that. I felt like that this could have actually lended itself to a longer, even like live action version. And I would like to see that happen personally.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, thinking about that, I give it 4 out of 5 deltas. I enjoyed it. I really liked this one.
That's fair enough. That's cool. Yeah, so you agreed with a little bit of my, some of my, I think, nitpicks and criticisms as well. But yeah, I think I do want to kind of just see it as a full episode. Maybe Strange New Worlds writers, if you're listening, give us something like this, not just a straight remake, but,
It would be a lot of fun. It would be a lot of fun to see done.
Awesome. So I've worked out the average then for this episode. So we gave it 3.54 and 4.5. So I actually typed this into my calculator like an idiot because I could quite easily have worked out the average from there.
I could tell you what it is.
Yeah. Do you want to go for it, Mary? Do you want to tell the audience what the final score is then, the average?
4 out of 5.
It's 4 out of 5 Starfleet Deltas. I do not know why my brain just didn't work on that one, but yeah, that's great.
Welcome
so yeah, still
world.
Very good. Exactly, yeah. Oh,
we
man,
might
I'm
be
nerds,
nerds, but math isn't one of those things.
Oh, it's never been one of those things. Anyway, but yeah, so that's going to wrap us up then for this week in this episode. So apologies, Mary, we kept you far longer than I kind of told you we would, but I was personally enjoying it too much. So,
I am not going to be faulted for, or I'm not going to fault you for any of it because I am just as much as fault because I talk a lot. So it's great. I love this. This is absolutely wonderful. And what a delightful way to spend my afternoon over here. So
awesome.
Just great.
That's great. It's been really, really nice talking to you in person rather than sort of typing on a screen finally. And I don't know about DK, but I'd love to have you back again maybe next series to talk about
a whale of a time.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Absolutely. I am delighted that you even asked me. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. And I've had such a nice time. I would love to come back.
Awesome. That's great. Well, hopefully this episode does well because it deserves to. I think it's great, been a great little episode. So, so just before I sign off then, did you have any sort of social medias or anything you wanted to share? Any other projects, Mary, that you wanted to direct people to?
Oh, I guess you told people to follow me on TikTok. It's at flutemusik with a K. And that's pretty much it. You can also find me on Twitter. It's at brand new Mary. And there's an underscore between new and Mary. And that's really about it. I guess I have Instagram too, which those are all, I have flutemusik _ cosplay on Instagram, which is where I like put my Trekkie things.
I recommend at the very least for people to follow your TikTok because I think it's cool to watch. So
it's a trip. It's not always Trek. Sometimes I'm lamenting about like being single and stuff like that, and it's a good time.
Yeah, but it's nice to have that emotional connection with somebody who's not a creep or a weirdo, you know. So,
it's very true.
On the internet, it's very rare to find people that are genuine and real. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And as I said, if nothing else, it's just some really cool uniforms, including the first time I've ever seen anybody in an Orville uniform, which is just amazing. It looks so good in cosplay form.
It's so nice. It's so nice. I need to work on the shoulders. I have to work on the shoulder things because that's like the rank thing, and mine are kind of cheap, and I need to do something to make it better. But it's a work in progress. Yeah.
Fair enough. Awesome. That's cool. And yeah, DK, what about you? Do you want to share anything or just the usual things we always have?
Well, I'm now on Mastodon and I'm now on Space Hay for that retro vibe. If you want to put links in the description, Mike. I can be found on Twitter if by the time of broadcasting Twitter still exists.
Which it may well not be. Yeah, sorry, that was at AKA Starlord. I should have said. I spoke over that. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm everywhere on the internet, but I've just linked my link tree in the description because it's easier to use that to find everything. Because if I'm on Twitter, if it's still around, you can find me there. I've also got a Mastodon, an Instagram, a Facebook, and obviously the YouTube channels for the podcasts are all listed there. So you can find us there, or again, listen to our fantastic outro by Timeless Journeys, where she explains a lot of the places you can find us as well. So yeah, without any more rambling on, then it just remains for me to say thank you so much again to Mary for being a fabulous guest and joining us this week. And yeah,
You're
we
very
had a
welcome.
great time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we will be back for one last episode this series in a week's time, where DK and I are joined by our old top 10 Star Trek movies crew. So that's us two plus Adrienne Park Tucker and my good friend Stephen Brown. And we're going to be reviewing, because it's time travel related, of course, we're doing a film because it's the end of a series, and we're reviewing Star Trek IV, the one with the whales. I mean, the voyage home. So do tune in for that to close out this season, and then do follow us on our Silver Screen podcast for the month of December as well. So yeah, we look forward to seeing you there. And in the meantime, do you remember, we are Starfleet. Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.
You have been listening to the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast, hosted by Michael Wilson and DK. Created, produced, and edited by Michael Wilson. Additional material produced by DK. Music by Timeless Journey. More information can be found at soundcloud.com/Timeless Journey. The Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast is based on an idea by Michael Wilson and Will Templar. Follow the podcast on Twitter at HoMTrek, on Instagram at HoM Star Trek Podcast, or look for the Hit or Miss Star Trek podcast under Facebook groups. Links to all our social media accounts and more are in this episode's description. This podcast is available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Just look for Silver Screen, Hit or Miss Star Trek. This has been a Mike's Podcast production, copyright 2022. Thank you for listening.